What's up, party people? It's your boy T-Mac here, and welcome to the Mind of Mac podcast. Mind of Mac podcast, you say? What could that be about? Pretty self-explanatory. It's just going to be everything that's going on in my mind. So we got a lot to talk about and discuss. But I'm going to kind of break down why I'm starting this podcast, kind of where I'm at right now, physically, mentally, just kind of, this will be like a weekly update or so on kind of where I'm at, how I'm doing, but not just that. We're going to be talking about things I love, so I'm going to be talking about a lot of hip-hop music, mixed martial arts. I'm a big fan of UFC and that whole game, and I think they, martial arts and hip-hop actually have a pretty big crossover, so we'll definitely explore that in this podcast. But let's go. Before I started recording this, I wrote down, kind of who, what, when, where, and why about this podcast, because, I figured this would be a good way for me to kind of explain and kind of put down why I'm doing this and what it's going to be about. So the who is, who am I? Who am I, you might ask? My name is Tyler McGraw. Very nice to meet you. No, but for real, my name is Tyler. All my friends and everybody calls me T-Mac, so you might hear me as DJ T-Mac. You might hear people just call me T. You might hear Mac. Who knows what you hear, but that's who I am. I am a rapper, producer, DJ, beat maker, pizza chef, all-around creative. Let's go back to T-Mac for a second, because that's an acronym, and I actually have a whole lot of things that it could stand for, but mainly what it stands for is the man adventuring creativity. That's what it stands for right now, at least. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm the man adventuring creativity. Sort of a lone wolf at times, I guess I could kind of describe myself as, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, but, I definitely like my alone time and getting to explore different ideas and things in my head, but a lot of times I get caught up in that and need to get out and not be a lone wolf as much. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. So that's the who. Let's get to the what. What this podcast is about. Like I kind of mentioned before, it's going to be about my interests. So, and whatever I want to talk about. So we're definitely going to be talking about a lot of music, a lot of hip hop. Going to be talking some mixed martial arts, news, current events, fights that are coming up. Hopefully I can interview some fighters. That would be really super cool. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. That's where my family is. And, I still have a place back there if I need to get back home, because I'm currently in Provincetown, Cape Cod. But there's some mixed martial arts fighters on Long Island, some pro guys, amateur guys. So definitely would love to talk to them. And same with hip hop artists. Hip hop was birthed in New York, in the Bronx, in the borough, and Long Island ain't that far. So we're pretty close to the essence. So definitely have a bunch of artists and people that I want to review, that I want to interview from Long Island about hip hop and mixed martial arts in general, and maybe just history. It doesn't really have to be those two things, but those are two of my more favorite things that we'll probably talk about and dig into more as this podcast rolls along. Some topics in music we could be talking about are news, current events. I'd like to do some album reviews, kind of talk more in depth about that. Whether it's new albums that dropped, old albums that people don't know or that I don't know, that people need to know about, because there's a lot of those. So that's kind of what the podcast is going to be. Almost like an extension of my radio show. I have a radio show called Flavor in Your Ear on the local radio station here, WOMR in Provincetown. But on that show, it's more of a mixed show where I'm really just DJing and want to play more music than talk about it. Definitely give you some history, some, hip-hop, good hip-hop talk on there. But I want to keep that more of a music mix show. But on here, I definitely want to flesh out ideas more and dig more, do some digging in the crates, you know what I'm saying? So, why am I starting this podcast? I'm not really sure why. But, I'm T-Mac, the man of venture and creativity. So this is another creative avenue that I could feel, that I feel like I want to explore. I've been super inspired by other podcasts and radio shows. So let me list off a couple that have really inspired me. So Joe Rogan Experience. He inspired me just because he interviews so many different types of people and he has so many different interests, and I just think that's so cool. I'll listen to an interview with a doctor 1 hour, and then he'll be interviewing a pro athlete the next. So it's just a huge variety, and something that I would definitely like to bring into my podcast is, just people from different walks of life and different ideas, and just be able to talk about them and explore them and understand more about them. Another podcast was The Fighter and the Kid. Luke Thomas, he's a mixed martial arts analyst. He's got a couple podcasts and radio shows. So that's super inspiring to see his grind and, all the things that he's kind of taking on and being successful with. Ariel Helwani, another one in the mixed martial arts circle. Mixed martial arts journalist who, just works very hard, and I watch a lot of his interviews and definitely take a lot of mental notes with those guys. Sway, who is a pillar in the hip hop community. Remember watching him on MTV News, and, when I was at my job before this one, I would listen to Sway pretty much every morning from 8 a.m. till 12. That's when his show was on Sirius, Sway in the Morning. So I learned a lot about radio and interviewing and hip hop, and just being a good person and gentleman in general from Sway. He's just very professional, super professional, and that's something that I definitely admire and want to take from. Somebody who shares the radio station with him up on Sirius XM Shade 45 is Rude Jude. Something from his show, the All Out Show, is just that I took is, just be yourself. He plays whatever kind of music he wants, even though it's a hip hop show. He'll play some classic rock and, just stuff that he's into, and just talk about things he's into, some crazy stuff, but always do you. He's got a couple books that came out called Hummingbird and Hyena, and, it's just simple stories, simple short stories, funny stories, crazy stories about his life. But something I learned from him is, always just do you. Rob Markman's another one. He works for Rap Genius, and some hip-hop artists, Logic, J. Cole, Joey Badass, all people who really inspired me to kind of be on the path I'm on right now. There's many more that I could keep naming, but we'll just leave it at those guys right now. But some friends and family who inspire me are, especially in this podcast field, is Michelle Mendez and my boy Chris Costello. They actually started their own podcast. So yeah, I was actually on Michelle Mendez's, which is called While I Overthink It. You can find that on YouTube and SoundCloud. And my boy Chris, he's got one called Coastin' and Toastin', talking about brews and sports and good stuff like that. So definitely check those guys out. Shout out to you guys. Y'all are inspiring. So that's why we're here right now. Another group I want to shout out is the Bu Life. Met these guys up here in Provincetown. Hip hop group, collective, I would just say collective, a crew. And Bu Life stands for BU Life. So that's just mad inspiring. They got a good message. Just some cool, good people, good friends that I met up here. And, it feels like I've been boys with them for a little while. It feels like some of my boys from back home when we chilling. Nothing's changed. I just be myself around them. They're themselves, and everybody just accepts each other. It's the BU Life. So big shout out to you guys. Some more reasons why I'm starting this podcast. I just want to explore different ideas and concepts, and just have some more long format discussions. I feel like I had a lot of great conversations with some of my friends, but those were in private, and I don't even really remember everything that we talked about. It's definitely some key points that I remember, but I feel like having a podcast gives the opportunity for long form discussion where you can really bring out different ideas and thoughts and learn a lot. So definitely looking to do that, looking to interview people. And yeah, that's kind of why this podcast got started. So we kind of skipped around on the who, what, when, where, and why. We did the who, what, and the why. Let's do the when. Why am I starting this podcast right now? Good question. Well, in the beginning of 2018, probably right before 2018 started, I made a list of goals. Everybody can set some goals in their head, but I feel like actually having a list and physically writing it down and putting it somewhere where you see it every day, it makes you want to achieve them and strive towards them, or else you're like, if it's something in my head, I'm going to go to the gym every day for the whole year. I'm going to work out. I'm going to be this weight by the end of the year. If that's just in your head, it's hard to stay accountable for that. So what I've been trying to do is actually write stuff down, put it where I could see it, put it where other people could see it, tell other people. So it kind of holds me accountable. I find that that's kind of helped me to get some stuff done. So on my list of 2018 goals, one was to start a podcast. So that's one reason why I'm starting it, but that's not a good enough reason to start it. Obviously it's been on my mind all year that I wanted to start it, but I'm kind of like, just why? What would I do with it? But, instead of just being stuck with that, I just had to start it, and, we're going to kind of figure that out as we go along. But I got a bunch of ideas and things that I want to talk about and do, so I'm not worried about that no more. But 2 people in the past week brought up that I should start a podcast. So if people keep telling you that, it's pretty funny. I mean, I don't really hear it. Obviously it's my voice, but people tell me I have a good voice for radio and talking. So we're just going to explore that, work on these skills, keep it going. And yeah, now is the time. I have some more time on my hands. Over the summer, I was working like crazy. So working like crazy and trying to put together a 2-hour radio show is enough to kind of deal with. But now I got a lot more time on my hands to think about ideas and do things. So that's what we're doing. We're exploring. We're trying new things. So shout out to everybody who inspired me to be doing this right now. Shout out to you guys, and shout out to everybody who's listening. I really appreciate you. And, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, you want me to review an album, things to talk about, certain topics, comments, send me messages. I would love to hear it. And I'd love some contributions. So you can find me everywhere on all my social media at TMAC. 631 TMAC 631, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Mixcloud. Not sure where I'm going to upload this. Hopefully put this on YouTube. I'm going to just try to put this everywhere, so y'all can get it whenever, wherever you want. All right, so we got 4 out of the 5 W's completed. We got the who, we got the what, we got the when, we got the why, and now to the where. Where am I at? I'm in Provincetown, Massachusetts, not Providence, Rhode Island, not Providence, Massachusetts, Provincetown, Massachusetts, people. We are at the Land's End. We are at Cape Tip. We are Cape Tippin'. Pretty isolated out here, and I kind of like it. Being out here, especially during the summer, you're working so much and so busy that you just don't have time to do anything, to watch the news, and you have time to sit down and relax, but you're just so exhausted at that point. It's just time to go to bed, light one up, do your thing. But being out here is super isolated, so I'm not really affected by other people's ideas or thoughts or what's going on in the news. Out here, I'm just not watching the news. I'm not paying attention. And I like it. It's cool to kind of separate from a while. I know back home on Long Island, I'll go home and visit for a couple weeks, but there's just so many people and so many things going on. And I feel like you're just inundated with so much information. It's just overwhelming. It really is crazy. But out here, it's really not like that at all. I feel like I have a very clear head and time to do and think about this stuff in space. Just a lot different out here. So that's where we at. But originally from Long Island, New York, but originally from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. That's where I was born. That's where my dad's side of the family is all out. So shout out to all my PA people out there. Shout out to all my Long Islanders, and shout out to all my Provincetown people. Just shout out to everybody. I love you all. All right, so that's kind of the base, the guideline, the rough draft of kind of, what this podcast is going to be about. But I figured since we're here, I'll tell you a little story about kind of how I got here. So I kind of jotted all this out in my new marble notebook that I have. So I'm going to try to go off these bullet points that I have, but we might skip around a little bit or add some details. I might miss something, but just try to stick along for the ride. All right, so the story about how I ended up in PTown. I was going to college, graduated with a bachelor's degree, and nothing particular. I got an associate's degree in computer-aided drafting and design, so that's just pretty much how to draw stuff on the computer, like what architects use to make blueprints and all stuff like that. So I got a 2-year degree in that. I was going to go for technology education after that, but I was finished with school. I just couldn't do it anymore. The whole homework thing and going to class, and not that I wasn't a good student. I was a very good student when I set my mind to it, but just to become a teacher, you need to get a master's degree in a certain amount of time after you graduated, and I was just ready to work and start making some money. So transferred back to Long Island, Farmingdale State College, and got a job right around the block with a custom metal and glass fabrication company doing estimating. So I never did estimating before, but since I had a drafting degree, I kind of understood how to read drawings and blueprints. So that's what got me the job, just knowing that. And then I learned everything about estimating and construction from there. So I was working and going to school at the same time. Once I graduated, I just went right to full time at my job, which was pretty awesome. I was put on salary. So 22 years old, salary job already, seemed like I was pretty set, But, so once I started working there, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was learning a lot, which, once I'm learning, it's always cool. But up to a point, it just was not fun anymore. But while I was sitting behind a desk for 8 hours a day and in a car for 2 hours a day, 1 hour there, 1 hour back, pretty much, I got to listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of lectures, lots of books on tape, a couple things that really helped me out. Not that I was lost, but, just growing up and being a young man and trying to figure things out. These are some things that really kind of helped put me on a right path. So one was an audiobook that my mom actually gave me. It's called You Are a Badass. And it was a woman who wrote the book and was reading it. And I just remember some specific things in there that really gave me confidence and, kind of, I don't know, how do I say this? Kind of pushed me over the edge, but I don't know, just gave me confidence to be myself and to be you. A book that I picked up that I heard about from a bunch of rappers that said that they read it and, had some very good guidance was The 4 Agreements. I highly recommend that book. Another book that I read that kind of had some guidance and some good ideas and philosophies in it was The Hip Hop Gospel by KRS-One. Like I said, I listened to a lot of podcasts. The Joe Rogan Experience was definitely one that I listened to. And, by listening to that, it really made me evaluate and think about my mental health and physical health. And at my job, those are things that I feel like kind of were deteriorating and things that I wasn't focusing on when those are really two of the most important things in your life. Logic, he's got a lot of quotes in his songs about doing what you love. And J. Cole, too, he actually had an interview with Angie Martinez, and something that really stuck out to me. This isn't the exact quote, but he said, if you're working at a job that you hate, that you're a sellout. And that was really something that kind of hit home for me, working for somebody that I didn't want to, doing something that I didn't want to, when, there is opportunity to go out there and to do what you want. So all those things really hit home for me. And it was coming to a point where I was at my job and I was like, can I really be here for 20, 30 years? And even with the advancement positions, it's something that I really wasn't looking forward to. I was doing more of the things that I didn't like about my job already. So yeah, kind of getting to a point where I was reevaluating my whole situation. And as I was getting to that point, listening to Sway in the morning every day, getting those positive vibes from there, he brought up a rapper named D1, and they had an amazing interview that I really connected with. So I found D1 online after that, listened to a bunch of his stuff. He just dropped, or was about to drop, the Threes Up EP, so had to cop that and listen to that, and went to some of his shows and started following him very closely. And I actually went to a couple of his shows, and the second show I went to was at this venue called SOB's in Manhattan, I believe, Lower Manhattan. Legendary venue where all hip-hop acts really on the come up. Everybody goes through there. Before you blow up, you have a show at SOB's. That's just how it happens. I saw Sci-Hi the Prince there before D1. I didn't see anybody else there, but I just know that that's a legendary venue for up-and-coming acts to come through. So once I saw D1 was there, I scooped 2 tickets right away. Ended up bringing my boy DB along, hop a train, go to the city. And this is right before I was about to take a trip up to Cape Cod to visit my parents. This was late September or mid-September, right at the end of the season. So I wasn't able to make it up during the summer to visit my parents. So I was going to come up, right when everything slowed down and it was good weather and all that good stuff. But the night before, me and my boy are going to this D1 concert in the city. So we get in the city, it's always the same thing before we go to concerts. You find a bar, have a couple of drinks, get some food, relax, have a little fun, and then we get to the show, and then just, it's a hip hop show. So we're just having fun, jamming out, vibing out. Live music, that's when I'm in my zone and I'm feeling the best is, at a concert. So get to the D1 show, killing it as usual. He's got the best energy on stage that I've ever seen. He really spits with the most passion and emotion that I've ever seen, and it really is amazing. So he's going through the show, I'm loving it, and so he's about to play Sally Maybach, and he says, "Who's got student loans in here?" He's got a song called Sally Maybach. Most of you guys probably know who Sally Mae is. It's somebody who gives out student loans, this and that. And you know what a Maybach is. A Maybach is a very expensive car. So rappers are always flexing and talking about how they got money, they're driving the Maybach. But D1 kind of flipped that. And he said, "I finished paying Sally Maybach. So just a really good idea and concept. And he asked the crowd, "Who in here is paying student loans? Raise your hand." So of course, I actually raised 2 hands because, there's a lot of student loans that got to be paid over on this side. So both hands go up, and he ends up pointing down to me. He says, "You come on stage right now. You're performing Sally Maybach with me." And my jaw was I just kind of jaw dropped, and I froze. I couldn't believe it. I was just literally frozen. My eyes were wide open, and then my boy just starts pushing me. He's like, "Yo, go, what are you doing?" So yeah, DB pushed me up, hopped up on stage, and freaking performed Sally Maybach. And that was one of the craziest experiences of my life. Like, it's not the biggest venue, there wasn't a ton of people in there, but just to be on the stage with somebody that I admired and looked up to and rapping his song, it was just fucking crazy. There's no other way to describe it. Fucking crazy. I'm definitely going to try to find that video and post it up whatever day I drop this. I'll drop it in the next couple days, but I'm going to get that video from DB and post it so you guys can see me performing. Just insane. So that was just one of the greatest moments of my life. So yeah, show ends, I'm just jubilant as fuck. Can't believe it. DB's going crazy too. It's just insane. Couldn't believe it. So go back home, and then the next morning, like I said, I'm coming up to Provincetown. So that's already got me coming up to see my parents. I was already in a good mood and happy. Going to see a D1 music hip hop show, great mood. Now that I was freaking brought on stage and performed with him, I was just on another level of happiness and excitement and joy that I'm not sure if I ever reached that up until that point. So get home, go to sleep, wake up the next morning pretty early. Probably I got up here probably midday, around noon. 6-hour trip by yourself, which it used to suck, but I'm pretty used to it now. So coming up here, I was just giddy, in a great mood. got up here, saw the parents. It was just so great to see them and be back with them again after, what was it, like 4 months of not seeing them. So that was pretty awesome. Let me get back to my notebook here, because I feel like I need a little straightening out here on my timeline here. But yeah, so that was just a great trip, just great energy coming back up here and feeling the vibe. And I actually looked back on my Instagram, and a caption on the photo that I put from that past weekend was, "The timeline and power of these events is something that is way out of my control." And I truly believe that, because what happened that weekend would really set in motion the rest of my life and kind of what would take place from there. So not long after that trip, my parents came home for the winter, and I remember them telling me, we're going to all go out to dinner. I think it might have been the first night they were back. Maybe it wasn't the first night they were back, but anytime I was at work and she says, "Oh, the family's going to go out to dinner, meet us here, this and that," I always know that there's an announcement. There's some sort of family discussion or decision that needs to be made, or some sort of announcement. So I was ready for it. That particular day, I don't remember specifically what happened, but I remember I was not having the best day at work, and I was definitely not in the best mood when I was leaving, but I was happy to leave and be going to barbecue to meet up with my family. So we get there, and, we're having, we're eating great barbecue food, and then they announce that they are probably going to be opening up a pizzeria, which is pretty mind-blowing. Fun fact, we never made a pizza before in our lives, and they decided that they were going to open up a pizzeria. So, I was kind of taken back at first, couldn't believe it. There was, where they already had a business in the food court, there was an opening. So they decided, instead of competing against somebody else, why not be our own competition? So that's what they decided. They announced it. It was pretty crazy and mind-blowing, but pretty exciting also at the same time. And I remember them telling me that, and I said, "Well, you might have your first employee right here." So yeah, that was all setting in motion kind of where I am today. At my other job, I really felt like I was alone, and I really was. I was in an office by myself for most of the day, most of the 8 hours a day, doing estimates and talking to people who weren't really inside the company, and trying to work with general contractors. And it just is not a fun business, and not fun to be a part of, or at least my position and where I was at the time. So I was just really super getting turned off to the job and my future there in that field in general. So it was a lot of anticipation for years, even but months and days leading up to when I would actually tell them that I was probably going to be quitting. And it's kind of crazy. It came up in a very unexpected way. I was working. It was probably about a month or two before I was going to give them a heads up that I was going to be leaving. And one of my bosses came in, one of the owners, and he started asking me a bunch of questions about the estimating department and like if I could do it by myself. And I was just like, hold on, pump the brakes, because I need to tell you something. I'm going to be quitting and leaving in a couple months. Which, once I finally said that, I had the biggest weight lifted off my back. I felt a million times better, rejuvenated, refreshed. It's literally undescribable, the feeling of getting that out there, letting them know, and that really was a line that had to be crossed before I moved any further mentally. I needed to let my job know before I was able to mentally move on to the next step. It was really just hanging over my head. It was really crazy. I've put a lot of pressure. It was really more pressure that I put on myself at that job, more than the pressure that my bosses put on me that kind of forced me to left. But, I just take a lot of pride in my work, and the type of work I was doing there is something that didn't really excite me. So being able to get the opportunity to work with my parents and do some new things in a new place was something that was very exciting to me. So once I finally was able to tell my boss that and set that in motion, I was one of the happiest men on planet Earth, I think. So after that happened, I took a trip down to South Carolina, a little less shebang with my boys before the next chapter of my life started. Had a great time down there with a bunch of them down on Lake Murray, South Carolina. Shout out to everybody down there, sending it. And after that, the rest was history. We came to Provincetown, and here we are, a year and a half later. So thank you to everybody who has helped me on my journey, inspired me to get here, said something positive to push me here, said something negative to push me here. Everything in life really happens for a reason. Everybody you meet, no matter how minimal or insignificant it may seem, there is a significance to everything, and I truly believe that, and that's what led me here right now recording this podcast. And to you listening to it. Something led you to this. And I truly believe that. And hopefully you enjoyed this and you will continue to come back and stick around for more programming. All right, so that was the story. So let's get into other things I want to do on this podcast. So we're going to do a lot of hip hop talk. We're going to be talking history, current events, like I said, album reviews, interviews, freestyles, very open-ended. I love music, so, I'm just trying to create a platform to talk about it and to have other people talk about it. Talk about hip hop and, like I said, mixed martial arts. It's one of my passions, so we're definitely going to be talking a lot about that also. I'd also love to interview fighters. I would be very excited to do that. Definitely going to have a bunch of my friends up here just to have some good convos. Like I said, when you're with your friends, that's when you're the most comfortable and your mind is the most open and you're able to flow and talk the most. So I definitely would love to get some good friend conversations going up here. So hit me up. Let's get it. And I just like to connect with more like-minded people. I just want to create a good community of people who are creative and positive. Like that's really all I want. Straight up. I just want to be surrounded by creative and positive people and just create and have a good time and do fun, cool things. I'd also like to do some trivia and giveaways, so stay on the lookout for that. What am I currently working on? Well, there's lots of ideas that are swirling around in my head, but what I'm currently working on is a mixtape. Yes, I'm going to do a mashup mixtape, so I'm putting different acapellas with different beats from rappers and singers and different stuff like that. You want to know what Drake would sound like on a beat from 2006 or even 1972? You want to know what Kendrick would sound like on some older stuff? Cardi B, we got some Biggie Smalls. I got some really, really good mixes and stuff coming up for you. So stay on the lookout for that. It's going to be releasing before the end of the year. So, we only got a couple weeks left. So there's not many more days that it could be released on. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. That's volume 1. This is going to be a reoccurring sort of mixtape that I plan on doing, a mashup. So stay tuned for that. I got some T-Max stickers on the way, T-Max 631 stickers. So keep your eyes open, eyes peeled. Trying to be cranking out beats. I got my vinyl here, got my sampler, got the laptop, got the whole setup. So trying to be, cranking out beats, making real mixtapes too. Hopefully I can, not that I have writer's block, but just put down some more good stuff to get out to the people. I'm always going to be working on Flavor in the Year Radio, which airs on WOMR on alternating Monday nights. The next show is December 3rd. We're going to be doing some December hip-hop history probably. So I'm always going to be doing that. Stay tuned for that. You can listen to any of my past radio shows and mixes at mixcloud.com/TMAX631. That's mixcloud.com/TMAC631. I'm going to be live at the Underground on Wednesday nights now. So starting Wednesday, November 29th. Excuse me, had a little bit of a mind block. But I believe it's the Wednesday the 29th. I'll be starting there. Hopefully I'll be doing some weekly parties. Hopefully if you are in the vicinity of Provincetown, you will be able to come out and party with me that night. I'm going to be interviewing some more local artists, and yeah, I just got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. So make sure you follow me on social media. Let's get connected. Stay connected. Follow me at TMAC631. That's at TMAC631. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, freaking Twitter that I don't even use, but just find me on there. Hopefully I'll have a YouTube too. I do have a YouTube. I don't think it's TMAC631, but we're going to get this uploaded on YouTube, every platform possible. And yeah, let's stay connected. Let's share, tag your friends. Let's get this thing started right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my first podcast, Mind of Mac, episode 1. Episode 2, hopefully I'll have it next week and I will have a guest, so stay on the lookout for that. This is the Mind of Mac, and just remember to always do you.